What's up YouTube? I'm Joe, you're watching my channel Ink&Iron, back with a multi-tool video, specifically a review of the Leatherman Arc. This is not my first impressions, this is after a week of use and occasional hard use, and I'll prove it with some video clips I took. I had an inordinate amount of opportunities to use this week. In my belief, a multi-tool is best at improvising, and I had a lot of stuff come up at work this week that I did not see coming. So this thing did come in handy quite often, but we're going to start with the elephant in the room. If you've been watching my channel lately, you'll know I've had a problem with these cutters. You can see there's a gap in the bottom of these wire cutters that was not present on older Leatherman tools. That includes things like the P4 here, the Wave and Charge and Surge series, even the Rebar series has replaceable cutters that do not have a gap in the bottom. And yeah, that's been my main complaint with the Arc here, is the Plier Performance. So let's get into it. So the cutters, they broke, okay? Can you see that? See how that's an uneven, non-symmetrical gap there? What happened was, I took this piece of coat hanger wire, and it is coat hanger wire, here's the end of it. Took a little piece, put it in the gap, tried to cut it, and the cutters just straight up chipped. They chipped right out. You can see the break right there. So that's not great. And the reason that's not great is because every other Leatherman multi-tool with the replaceable cutters can cut this stuff no problem, including the Rebar, which is 80 bucks. As of the filming of this video, this tool is 80 bucks. No damage, okay? So 80 bucks versus the retail price on the Arc, which is 230 before tax. What? What are you talking about, Leatherman? What am I paying for in a pliers, you know, at that price point? Because it seems like crap performance. So anyway, that is most of my complaint about the Arc plier head. It does have one more problem though, and you can see it right here. It won't open. It's very stiff and binding after you cut anything. So here's the P4. You can see it just drops open. I mean, I think my Rebar will even drop open. Oh, no, this one's a little stiff too. It's a problem with the replaceable cutter heads, but again, 80 bucks, 230 bucks. Yeah, I'll accept it on this one. I don't accept it on this one. And maybe that's a personal preference and you disagree with it, but that's too bad because this is my channel. And also, if you think I'm being dramatic or something, here's a PST2. This is the reproduction PST. Now this is not a comfortable cut to make with these handles, but it still does it. Yeah, and it'll leave some nice, you know, dents in your hand because these handles aren't very ergonomic. But yeah, in my belief, a Leatherman should cut coat hanger wire. I'm extremely disappointed that the Arc does not. And so that's where I stand. All right, so ridiculously, the worst part of this pliers-based multi-tool is the pliers. Every other aspect of it is really boss. Leatherman did a great job doing, you know, the design changes that they did do, and they did take some cost-saving measures as well. So primarily, part of the cost of this multi-tool is going to be this blade. This is USA-made steel called MagnaCut. I believe it's a Carpenter steel. Carpenter is a manufacturer of steel. This is a powdered metallurgy steel. Has very high toughness, wear resistance, and supposedly corrosion resistance, but I keep seeing it coated. So as you can see, I've got some gunk on there. I was cutting up some plants in my parents' yard and just kind of left it dirty to see what would happen, and I'm glad to see there's no corrosion, so that's good. It's been sitting here juicy for a couple of days. I have carved all kinds of things using this, fiberglass, a little bit of wood. You know, I'm cutting open packages and cutting down plants, and yeah, it's still sharp. No real snags to be had. So the MagnaCut blade is an enormous upgrade. It is in an extremely ergonomic package with this thumb stud here and the, you know, finger clear release. So I think the MagnaCut blade is fantastic. I've been loving it. And I don't think I had a clip for the blade because every time I use it, I whip it out instantly, get the task done and put it away, and I forget to record it. That's how easy it is to use the blade. So good job on that one, Leatherman. The scissors are good. These appear to be the sharpest free series scissors I've ever received. I've had like 4 of these P4s, and this one has the best scissors. Yeah, no complaints really. It's very comfortable, spring-loaded, has a wider portion down here for your thumb to ramp onto it. So yeah, it's been good, and haven't super hard used it. I cut a few zip ties with it. Yeah, so you can see zip ties are no problem. So as far as pushing a small pair of scissors, this does well. It'll also cut your fingernails, no matter how thick they are. I actually cut mine on Friday, I think, using this, and then followed it up with a different tool on here, which is also excellent. This is the diamond coated file. It is diamond coated on one side. It has an edge file on the bottom, and then a crosscut file on the back side. It's sort of, the crosscut is somewhere between a wood file and a metal file. I believe it is meant to flex into both rolls. Normally a wood file would be a little bit coarser. Normally a metal file would be a little bit finer. This kind of walks the line between the two. Maybe the one weakness is the deployment hole here. If you go to file down the point on something like a nail, it is possible to, you know, end up sticking it through because a file cuts in this direction, right? So you're constantly moving the work towards this deployment hole. So that is maybe the one design consideration that might need to be changed in the future. You know, put a nail nick out here so that we can just open it from the end and have a solid file all the way through. But besides that hole in it, it is quite good. It works as a very usable nail file. The diamond coating is very tough. It will wear down steel very easily. This will do wood a little bit, and I did end up cutting with the edge file, which I'll show you now. Yeah, you too. So I was actually cutting just some screws on my desk drawer handles because they, one, I had to buy them because it wasn't included in the kit. 2, had to cut them down to actually fit in the drawer. So that was an odd task that I had to improvise. And I mostly used a hacksaw, but when I went to use this, it did do the task. Now, it took about 3 minutes to wear through it with the edge file versus about 15 seconds with a hacksaw. So again, these tools are for improvisation. They are, if you don't have the right tool available, you have a good enough tool to get the job done. And I think that this file is walking that particular use case perfectly. So very good on the file. The only bonus you could add to it is if it detached like the Leatherman Surge file. That would be great. And I'm getting lost on my own tool here. Okay, my least used tool for sure, and I may have kind of zipped off the points of these, which I'll show you in a clip now. So what I'm cutting in that clip is actually a fiberglass composite. So it is fiberglass mixed with epoxy and then cured with UV light. And that is the kind of thing I work with on a daily basis at work. And that's why I don't typically use a saw like this. Is typically I'm whipping out a power saw and getting right through that, or a band saw or something like that. But currently, this last week at work, the power cable that like descends from the ceiling, it broke off the ceiling. So we don't have a power supply over by where all the saws live now. So I was kind of SOL. And then I remembered I had a saw in my pocket. So I was like, yeah, let me see. Normally this is for wood and stuff like that. But I decided to use it for fiberglass composite. And it did do the thing. I may have done some serious damage to the saw teeth now that I look at it up close. But it is still grabby enough that it does work on wood. And I can prove it. I did wood right after I did the fiberglass composite. So I think it's a pretty typical free series style saw. I think it works pretty well. Is it my most used tool? No. Am I going to get a whole lot more use out of it? Probably not. All right, let's move on to some internal tools here. First up, we have a cap lifter slash big flathead screwdriver. And weirdly enough, I didn't have a reason to use the big flathead. Leatherman also markets this as a light duty pry tool now, which I do think is appropriate because this is a very, very thick tool. It's extremely thick. So given the short lever arm here and the stoutness of this piece of metal, I think you could do light duty prying. At a bare minimum, you can get cans off of, tops off of paint cans and things like that. The bottle opener does work. It is not the best because of how long this shank is here. I'll show you a clip. The shank here gets in the way as you're trying to lever it up. It kind of pushes down on the cap. It's a weird balance between functional and non-functional. Would I rather have a different tool on here? Yeah, I might actually rather have the P4's version of the basically the same tool but with a Phillips head on the end. I might end up swapping these at a later time, but anyway, it's a mostly functional tool. If you need a light duty pry, you can use it. Would I recommend prying with anything on your multi-tool? Probably not. Anything that has a pivot is probably not meant for prying. Here is a micro Phillips and micro flathead driver. This is one of Leatherman's most requested tools on their older designs. The older version of the Surge had this. The Wave and Charge series have this, I believe, if I remember correctly. Basically, it's for eyeglasses and for small electronics. Now, normally, I wouldn't have a use for this, but again, improvising this week, I had to fix a router table, and when I reassembled it, I wanted to make sure that the spindle shaft was plumb, so I found myself an angle finder, magnetic angle finder, and when I went to use it, turns out the batteries were shot, and there was a tiny little Phillips thing on the back that I had to open and replace the batteries, so I'll show you the clip. So crazy enough, I had occasion to use this and it worked just fine. So, I thought about eventually replacing this tool, but if it's going to come in handy for small electronics like that, I may need that at work. So I'll keep it in there. Next up is our awl. Now, this is an awl in a light sense. It doesn't have a stitching hole, which is fine by me. Leatherman took it out for the sake of strength, and I think that's an appropriate move. I do miss the hollow grind like you get on a Leatherman Surge awl, but it is very stout, and I poked it through the bottom of a can just to make sure that the tip was going to hold up. So I'll show you the clip. So as you can see, this awl is sharp enough to open packages and stab through cans and, do some fairly serious work that you wouldn't want to do with the tip of your knife blade. It also has a small wire stripper down here. I did not really get a chance to use the wire stripper. I don't strip a lot of wire. If you need a wire stripper, you're gonna have to watch somebody else's review about how well that works. But clearly for small gauge wire, I think 16 gauge is about the biggest they rate it for. All right, on to the bit exchanger. So this does come with a bit kit. Let me show you. Now's the chance for me to talk about the bit kit and the sheath, so I might as well do that. So Leatherman gives you all the bits except for one, and the one they don't include is actually a T8 and T6 driver, because they don't want you taking this apart. So anyway, you get almost a full bit kit. There's a small slot up here for the micro driver if you've got a backup one, and again T6, T8 is left out here. You also get a sheath. So this is for the $230. This is no additional cost here. Sleeve for the bit kit and a pocket for the tool. It's really pretty straightforward. A couple of side pockets, vertical carry only, in this nice gray color. I think we all like this new nylon sheath design. I mean, I like it and I don't even carry it. Anyway, the bit exchanger, very convenient. Has Leatherman's proprietary bits, which is not my favorite system. I know a lot of people like it, but I am convinced that those people who like it are already fully invested in the two-dimensional flat bits and therefore are just justifying the purchases that they've already made. If you're gonna buy this as a one and done toolkit, you don't have a toolbox, you just want like one thing in your pocket, this is not a bad option as long as your pliers work, because they'll give you all those bits. The bit exchanger is pretty handy. These will work in a normal hex adapter, so pretty usable. They're kind of short, and I mostly just use the Phillips on here because there's no Phillips on the rest of the tool. Anyway, that's the bit exchanger. I'm sure you've seen it before. It's nothing too crazy. They just built it for the free magnetic platform, so it works well. And then last up here is the can opener, and I actually got to use this, although I did go a little out of my way. Here's a clip. So as you can see, the can opener works fine. Its only downside is that it's small, and let me show you what I mean by small. So here's your average Victorinox can opener, and yeah, you can see it's quite a bit smaller and not quite as sharp as the Victorinox. This is a great can opener as far as fully manual can openers go. I would not recommend that anyone use a manual can opener as their primary, because there are many other options out there for you here in 2023. But this will do the job. This will do the job better. But this one's not. It doesn't commit the sin of having a driver at the tip, and therefore when you're cutting through, it stops at the driver tip every time. That would make this an absolute nightmare. As it stands right now, it is fully functional, just kind of small, and will take you more cuts than other can openers on average. So it does come with a pocket clip, thank God, at this price point. It is reversible, right? They have holes on here for the lefties, but again, like I said, they don't give you the hardware to take off the clip. So kind of a weird design concession where they're like, we're gonna save money and just stamp out these handles in bulk, right? This is the same, this is the same. They keep it consistent on both sides. So this is a manufacturing strategy here, but they don't give you the hardware to switch the clip. So I don't know what's up with that, why you would give everyone a lefty position and then not give them the tools to put the clip there to begin with. Like I said, this is hard to recommend as, a primary tool, first multi-tool for somebody, because it gyps you just enough that it doesn't really make sense to me. Anyway, let's look at this is the plier pivot here. So you can see this is the bottom of the plier head. This is actually an impact surface, and I did actually use this week. I'll show you the clip. So I was just budging a steel component into another steel component. It's not really possible to jam it with my hand like I normally would, so I used the hard knock here available at the end of my Leatherman Arc, and it worked fine. I have used this function on the free P4. There is a slightly larger gap here on the arc. I don't know if that'll really affect the performance that much, as I don't plan on using this as a hammer very often. It's just sort of like, oh, do I go grab a hammer from the toolbox that's going to take me 2.5 minutes round trip, or do I just pull this out and bang, bang, bang and get it done in 10 seconds, right? That's about the use case for this impact surface. So yeah, useful, just enough to merit actually using it. And then, is there a wire crimper down here? I do not know. Like I said, I don't crimp or strip wire often. Let me check the packaging. So yes, that is supposed to be a wire crimper. I don't know how it works. I don't really crimp wire. So anyway, I think that's your full use review of the Leatherman Arc, and I wanted to get this done after a week of actually ending up using most of the tools, because I'm going to send it off for warranty for that pliers issue. At the price point of 230 USD, this is the most expensive Leatherman, production Leatherman, that I've ever seen. And I hope this is the top price point they'll ever put out, because clearly, for the money, what are you really buying? You're buying the, I think you're paying for the Made in the USA stamp on here, and I think you're paying for the MagnaCut blade, because just a MagnaCut knife right now here in October 2023, like the Hogue Deca and MagnaCut is like $130 on its own. So if you consider this to be a $100 Leatherman plus a $130 knife blade, we're kind of looking at $230, although that is a difficult price point to swallow in a country where the federal minimum wage has not gone up in over 20 years at this point. So we're all on budgets out here, so I don't know who this is for. Trying to recommend this as someone's primary multi-tool is a tough sell. I think if you have the money, it's pretty good, although you're going to be facing quality control issues, you're going to be facing plier binding issues. You're probably going to be like me, where within a couple of weeks of actually getting the tool and using it, you're going to be sending it off for warranty, and that's a really tough sell, especially for the money. The free P4 was a tough sell for the money, so I think Leatherman is really testing the market right now, trying to see what they can sell us for the most amount of money, and this is what they've come up with, and I'm having a real tough time justifying it. I don't know about y'all. Leave me a comment if you agree or disagree. I'm really trying to figure this thing out. I think it's mostly good. I think the problems that it has are basically unacceptable at the price point. Now, luckily, you do get a 25-year warranty with it, and so I'm going to make use of that, but I will have to pay for shipping to Leatherman. So yeah, it's a mixed bag. The Leatherman Arc has a lot of good stuff going for it. Has a lot of weird things, you know, with the plier heads that I'm really not jiving with. So anyway, that's where I stand. Kind of mixed feelings about it. I think the price point's kind of whack. I think the tool set on it is actually pretty useful, and I think Leatherman did a good job moving from the P4 tool set to the tool set that's on the Arc. This is the tool set I wanted to see, and I am sad that the plier redesign has nerfed the performance here. All right, anyway, if you enjoyed this video, you want to see more multi-tool stuff, I do fountain pens, I do tools and typewriters and whatever I want here on my blog. Like, sub, do the things, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, bye.